So the next talk is by Akash Khandelwal, currently a data engineer, and the topic is breaking down data silos, enterprise data with automation, Python on Azure. So yeah, this is yours.
Thank you, Ayush. So, yeah, good morning, everyone. Before we jump into talk, I have a quick question to all of you. Those who have worked in enterprise data setting, you might be aware how many of you have file named file underscore v3 underscore 222 underscore updated dot xlsx on your system? Just raise your hand. If you work with data, this might be the biggest problem you might be having, right? So, today we are going to actually break them down that how I actually solved that problem for my enterprise with Python native architecture. So yeah, just a quick introduction. Myself Akash. I'm working in the enterprise data domain from last 8 years now. I am more or less responsible for orchestrating the complete enterprise data ecosystem and then creating centralized report to various departments to the leadership and board of directors level. So starting from manual Excel CSV files to automated dashboards and emails, basically Python generated heavy email templates. I and obviously Power BI reports on top of it. All all the tech stack and enterprise have. So yeah. So before we move to the solution as of the problem stands like this. Within an enterprise, we have multiple data sets, multiple domains. Finance team have their own ERP, HR team has their own ERP. Then there are sales, then there are admin, then there are other small departments. They collect their data within themselves. And the problem with that, the systems does not communicate with each other. And when we talk about enterprise, the whole leadership, the whole seniority, the units, the heads, the departments, everything runs, wants data, and everything needs like quickly, right? Someone has asked and report, please provide us the data in next 2 hours. And the problem is, if the request where you want data to be merged with payroll and HR and finance, it's a manual chaotic process with a lot of redundant works again and again and again and again, right? So what actually that leads to? Eventually, yeah, business never stops, right? Systems keeps on running, you end up creating the report. But this is what it happens. On the first glance, it looks very good, very neat, very clean, but it is a broken system, which is like there is a standard term called watermelon reporting. The systems are pretty much broken. You don't know who have created it. If you have been asked to recreate it again tomorrow, you probably end up doing the same thing, and your numbers might even not match. You don't even know that. Suppose if someone asks, "What is the total headcount of my company?" The finance team for that number, the statement can means people who are getting salary, whereas for HR, the number means people who are not on maternity and not on sabbatical. And you can't send the CEO, okay, as per finance, the number is 18,000 and as per HR, the number is 15,000. That's bullshit, right? People don't trust you. So the root cause, like why it actually happens, right? So if you look at it's most basically a silo vicious circle, and everything is because pulling out data is being left to the teams, and they directly reach out to the systems. They download the dump. They don't know the expertise, and they download the data. They massage it, and every time a team fails, company just go and went up with new crazy domains like, okay, this is the coolest tech stack. Let's buy it. So 3 years down the line, you might be using Power BI. Today, you might be using Tableau. But buying tools, buying domains does not fix it. The problem is deeper because there is a serious data governance and data quality issues which cannot solve it. So the solution which we implemented, this is a very big journey which I'm going to talk about. We actually removed the source data connection to the end users. We put a central nervous system in the between, which we kept on Azure Data Lake. Data Lake is like a glorified OneDrive or G Drive where you dump everything. And then there are developers, there are experts who have domain specific knowledge, who speaks data, who talks to data, who set up the guidelines, and then complete data sharing process is automated. Okay, so if you fix the manual work step, everything gets from an automated ingestion, then putting data into Lake, then business rules being coded into Pandas, native Pandas or whatever tools you want to use, and then eventually ending up a self-service BI layer. It looks pretty cool. It is not. So this is if I want to break everything what you have done, if you are in enterprise setting and you have created any BI report for your management or any departments, everyone in there, I am assuming your numbers has to be quantified into numbers, right? Whatever you are doing, eventually at the end of quarter, you have a meeting and you have to quantify what I have done. So this is more or less the data flow you have. What we have done is each data flow is assisted by Python. From ingestion to cleaning to transformation to orchestration to reporting. These are central terms. People used to do it. For us, Python sits in the background of it. Broadly, this is what the data architecture which we ended up building like. So there is not a one system in enterprise. The enterprise is just more or less collection of multiple systems sitting on cloud, local. Excel is a great source of data in enterprise. I have seen people are running databases in Excel. So Microsoft Excel, SharePoint, and then every company creates their own internal database. You don't end up, suppose there's an event in the organization, you don't end up buying a tooling system, right? You create your own database and then people, the internal support, internal application team supports it. So all the data sits there, you put it into data lake with the help of Python, and then the further processes take place. So when we started with this, we wanted to keep everything in Lake because Lake supports, like it's, as I said, it's a glorified OneDrive. You can dump everything, but this is a Medallion architecture. We didn't invent it. It's a central, it's a very general term which people use to store data. So you have multiple layers in it. It's raw, clean, and processed. The other term is bronze, clean, and gold. Bronze or raw means you put everything. It's a single source of truth. It cannot be changed. It is used for audit. It is used for governance. The effort goes into converting this raw data into clean. You separate data by domain. In this step, you separate data by domain. Finance data goes into finance, HR into HR, operations into operations, services into services, resourcing into resourcing, marketing. N number of containers can be created. Data stays there, into the raw, into the clean. And then if multiple departments data needs to be summarized, you want to create business ready use cases which are like time and again repeated requirements. Because frankly, in enterprises, what most of these department most of these department do is not something unique. Like what salaries used to be processed last year, salaries used to be processed today year, budget will used to be decided last year, used to be done this year. So a lot of reporting is more or less static with new inputs coming into it. So you have a centralized business rules in place, and all of this runs by, as I said, it's a Pandas native. Mostly Pandas, but we have for different type of data sets you can leverage, for example, ODBC or DuckDB, or for example, like if data is in PDF, you want to extract it from PDF, SQL databases, those are also being used here. But each layer has certain set of patterns associated to it. It's not just you can just go and do a select star on your HRDB and put everything, and then you can do a select star on your one ERP and the central ERP system for the finance and put it. No. ERP systems might be giving you daily dumps which you don't want to bring on daily basis. SharePoint has a list, and within the SharePoint list, you might want something to ingest whenever something is changed. There is no point in keeping the same data together. So it's an event-driven ingestion. Then there are certain cloud applications which provides you an APIs and you want to run it on daily basis or like weekly, or sometimes you have a requirement you want to run twice a day, thrice a day. And then you have databases where you want to integrate with SQL connectors. Similarly, when you want to organize data and with enterprise, the requirements are like, give me the data we have on 21st March 2024 and compare it with 21st March 2025. Databases, data warehouses, only the team who are maintaining it, the person will have a dump on his or her system. He will pull out the dump and then do it. Again, it raises a lot of questions when enterprise goes into audit. It is a classic question on data IP, data governance, ITGC control, audits. Everything is, you just get a lot of non-compliance when you do pull out data snapshots from Excel. So this is what we actually did. We started organizing data with respect to a timestamp attached it. There is a daily folder. Whatever time the data is being dumped into lake, a folder is being created to that particular timestamp. Currently, the size of our data lake is around 70 terabytes, comparing from 2020. So we can trace back to the records which were done in 2020, 2021. Then eventually bronze data is first thing is that you need to decide which data is being kept and what is the frequency of data, and then how to get the data. So it can be batch dump where it's simple select star, you put everything. For example, dimensions. Most of the dimensions in the company does not change. You don't even need to capture delta into it. It select star. Suppose your organization has 40,000 employees. Select star. The employee information of 40,000 employees is not hardly a 50 MB file. That's all. 50 MB CSV. But there is a daily delta. For example, timesheets or attendance data filled by people in last 7 days or modified in last 7 days. You can't fetch daily timesheet dump, which is like for 40,000, if people are logging 2 or 3 data records, it will give you at least around 7 to 8 crore rows for 1 year. So that does not make. So you bring the delta, you append the delta. Similarly, you have an insert and delete. If something is modified, you want to remove it. So fetch data for last 3 days, delete everything, append it. And then you also want to create a YTD consolidated, MTD consolidated, partial consolidated, quarter consolidated, weekly consolidated, and those sort of consolidated. So this all is being done in bronze. Until now, we haven't touched the data as it is. Whatever the system is giving, we are keeping it, just standardizing it in a manner so it's an easy way to access it again in a later future of time. This is the quality layer. I can assure you, if someone in your company is capturing data is this manner, at one particular point of time, he or she will read it as like 1st of Feb 2023. At another point of time, the person will read it 2nd January 2023. And this is the date we are talking about. If you are not sure, just look out how date time is being exposed by the ERP. One ERP will give you in UTC, another will give you in IST. And if some transaction has happened at 2:53 a.m., date will change, quarter will change, year will change, everything will change. And that is the major chaotic situation you end up in the company, and that's why data does not match, right? That's why you don't have a single source of truth. So this is where we have applied a lot of centralized cleaning patterns. The date will be stored in a particular format in the lake, irrespective whatever system the date is giving in. So it's YYY MMDD, plain as simple. Similarly, pivot. Enterprise people love pivot tables. Like for them, everything is pivot table, right? I have seen data where there are like 36 columns ranging from 2023 January, 2023 Feb till 2025 December. Does not make sense. We flatten out everything. Similarly, currency. For INR to Euro, you know it's 1 to 80. But what about Euro to GBP? Is it 0.9 or 1.12? And if the person does not know whether it's a to or from, your revenue can be, which was used to be have a runtime of millions, it can be have a runtime of 1.5 millions. Complete analysis gone wrong. And you even don't know who messed at what rare, because people do we look up and then the master data is deleted. So 1.1 euro, when it becomes 1.5 GBP, you don't even know at what conversion factor that person used. And the interesting aspect is, currency is such a term that enterprise tries to manipulate. If it's beneficial for them, they'll use real-time currency. If it's not, they use constant currencies. If you have read financial information, you'll see a lot of, if US dollar is appreciating compared to euro, company will say, okay, our revenue is doing good in constant currency. If it's not doing good, you want to use as on date currency, and that's how the industry works, right? But you have to make sure you are reporting terms and that terminology, the logics are standard. People know how to use in what manner. Similarly, the lingo in the company. What do you mean by customer? Is it the legal entity, or is it the term we use in day-to-day language? So Paytm is 197 communication or Paytm? A simple question. And a lot of time when we were creating, people actually haven't thought about these questions. Auditor is looking for 197 communication. There is no 197 communication in our reports. And that's when we decide, okay, legal term has a different naming. The day-to-day the lingo in which the company wants to speak has a different naming. So these are the various patterns. It's just not standardizing dates and append and flattening out. You also assign quality scores to each of your data, and you make sure that governance is being followed. A lot of metadata is being captured. If something is supposed to become in MMDD and your code is to be transformed into YYY MMDD, it has to be done. Otherwise, break, stop everything, notify everyone that today's ingestion job has failed. But do not cross silver layer by doing manual ad hoc or manual X. So once you have done silver, you have done bronze. This is where the power comes in. So the terms which used to be domain experts used to know, like the person A who sits on 9th floor knows how this is being calculated. You actually code that. And you code it in that transparency that everyone knows that this is the single source of truth the central team is publishing. We will abide by it. If this is not reflecting to what we think, we go back to the system, fix our data in the source, rather than fixing in the end layer, which used to happen in the enterprise setting a lot. You, after seeing the data, you realize, oh, the data might be wrong. Okay, let's tweak it in the presentation. No, that has to match what the central team has published. And the solution is go back to the silver layer, talk to the stakeholder, fix it then and there. And eventually, this is not just one aspect. There are a lot of things you can do. You can, once the central data system, the model is layer, which I used to call as enterprise data model, enterprise semantic layer, you can not only create the metrics and aggregations and all, you can create code patterns which can be used by different teams who have their own data experts. You can do system integrations. Those systems which does not used to talk now, you can enable that. You pick the output from first system, pass it on to the second system. You make sure no direct tools connect to directly each other, but it's passed via your central nervous system, which we used to call like this enterprise data layer. And everything in company has been now created or transformed into dimensions, facts. Simple example, dimensions, which does not change a lot, like your name, your designation, which can change like every twice a year, slowly changing dimensions and all. But facts, for example, the project you are working in, it might be changing every twice a month. You have an association for with each project for like 2 months. It's quite a thing in service sector industry. I am not sure how product works, but teams changes a lot. Timesheet and attendance, it's a fact. Who has filled bill timesheet on what client? What is the per employee revenue, per employee utilization? A lot of metrics and KPIs are there in enterprise setting, which senior managements want to know. Like these all are facts being captured at employee, project, and client. These are the major dimensions which we have. So that is what this layer is. Like you have an employee model, you have a project model, you have travel model, and not only this, you can create n number of models. You can have data mart sitting in on top of your warehouse, on top of lake, or you can create directly these models in Power BI or Tableau, semantic model, simple. So once everything is in place, the layer is set up. This is what the power is. You want to automate the business processes for which you have a 20 people team sending mails and taking follow-ups. I'll give you a simple example. If you want to raise a travel request, the travel team has to do a lot of follow-up. Now just expand it to a 10x. Suppose an enterprise where people are traveling to and fro, and the size of enterprise around 200 and 2,000 and 3,000, 20,000, 30,000 people, where daily around 100 and 150 travels are being booked. You have a dedicated customer support team in your company itself to cater travel. And then talk to about IT. People wants to install software, they want to get admin rights and whatnot. You want to know HR, what my compensation is, when it is being scheduled to be renewed. I have issues with my ITR, I have issues with my pen. Enterprise data has a lot of support channel where people just reach out to people on directly, right? No data, no efficiency, nothing. The request piles up. What is your end goal? Increase the team size. That's not how we designed it. We eventually plugged in the Power Automate service of Microsoft with again a Python layer. So Logic App is just orchestrated. It has two simple things. There is a trigger and the action. All the actions is being controlled by Python. Trigger is an end user event. I need a trigger is, for example, list of all travel requests which needs an approval, pending approval. So a simple some of the real world examples, like you create monthly reports and notify people that this is the revenue and the cost of your project for the last month, and this is the YOY trend. So rather than you want people to action on your data, right? This is where the action comes in. Similarly, data driven PDFs and emailers, which I talked about, right? Every week you have data settings in your databases. You can create an data driven PDFs and email Outlook HTML file generated, and then you can schedule it to every delivery manager or the senior management or CXOs of the company, right? So simple example of travel. Employee updates the travel request, goes into the travel DB, Logic app monitors, detects, runs a Python job, get the list of all people whose travels have not been approved, send the individual mail to individual manager of that employee automatically, capture the response in the mail itself, update the DB again. Till now, we have not even reached the travel team. Every morning, 8 a.m. travel team just gets the request of the people whose travels have been approved, and they starts the discussion with the employee to book the travel as an his or her needs. It's not a travel team job to get the approval, right? And that is what we have automated with this. And this is not just the one example. When you talk about enterprise settings, right now we are monitoring right now more than 500 of Logic apps. It's a serverless architecture, right? So you can update your databases, you can run nudges, you can update teams, code channels, take data from Jira, send to everyone. Whatever business processes you can think of, simple like a Excel file is modified, do something, to a complex one like this, updating database and all, everything can be done. So yeah, sounds like a very simple thing which we just enable using writing pandas and all. But enterprise, this is not how easy it looks like, right? We expected everyone was tech savvy and data savvy and they know their data well, right? No, people does not even know what sort of data they want. Leave apart how they are maintaining the data. The request is even not clear. If they want revenue, they'll ask for cost. Because for them, the cost is a negative aspect of revenue only. Same for HRs, same for marketing. Everyone needs data at the utmost urgency, but they don't know what. And if you just ask them, okay, your data request has these layers, 80% of the request just gets vanished. And that's where we set up the entire data catalog and the data glossary, and people know that this is the central data model. If this is the Spock for this data, this is how you can calculate. These are the standard reports, and you can trust this. So first challenge, data quality. We have had stages where the whole company, the reports have been stopped because someone is not maintaining their data properly in the systems. And it's not just maintaining dates. If something is an employee identifier, it cannot be blanked. One person can have one ID, can have one email ID, should be working from one location, should be working. So this is a complete construct we have built into the system, right? And if someone avoids it, the data does not pass through the silver layer. You omit it. And the direct Spock is responsible for fixing it. Similarly, performance. When we started, we thought our pandas job are good enough to scale, right? It's not that it can handle data in GB, but no. Once the volume increase, a lot of optimizations goes into. And frankly, we thought about writing parallel processing and all, but no. We eventually just started concurrency and using vectorizations, changing the complete in-house format has moved from CSV to Parquet, but the end users always needs data in Excel CSVs. Lastly, business changes a lot, right? The system which used to be reliable to you, the enterprise might stop it one day. Okay, we are not going to use it. From tomorrow onwards, we are going to use this. Secondly, companies keep on getting acquired or merged together. So the processes your company might be following, it is very much possible that the company you have acquired might not want to follow that process. And then at that time, you have to make sure the systems are running parallelly, both in simultaneous manner. You have an Excel layer in between. People are converting that data for you. And once the systems and processes are in place, you turn it off the one and move to the latest one. So lastly, just to conclude, enterprise data you might not even have think about how it works. There are dedicated teams, every company has it, and they are running on Excel databases, the so-called AI revolution we are in. But this is the hard truth. People love their Excels. They will not switch it out for anything. If you want to automate it also, they will, it's a major change in the organization level, right? The way they used to have access to central systems. Like they want the access to the central system. They want to massage their data in the pivot tables they want. So it's not that easy and forward. But the good thing is, if you start small and then scale gradually up, you pick the boring redundant task. Every team has a boring redundant task, and the person or the new hire they have hired to do it, he also despises it. Like after 2 months or 3 months, they also don't want to do it. For example, downloading and data, creating a pivot, copy the snapshot, sending an email. Simple thing which can be automated likely with like 10 lines of codes. Even Python can itself do it. You don't even need Azure infrastructure for that. Start from that, create the data mindset, train people on quality, train people on governance, build a habit of questioning, clarifying the requirements, and then document everything what you are doing. And eventually, over a long course of time, you'll realize that with mere simple Python data ecosystem, which not even talking about scaling and all, for a small data set size, enterprise data is not that big data. It's mostly wide data with so much different teams maintaining data in different terminology and all. If you build a data terminology and language and glossary and start building this habit, you'll see the results. The time which take like 3 months or 4 months to turn up and around, or if you want to replicate everything, you need a dedicated person sitting on weekends. That can be automated a lot. Well, thank you. So, questions?
Anyone?
Yeah, I have a question. So Microsoft has launched this Fabric also, so which is a SaaS platform and it's quite easy to use. So what do you think about Fabric versus doing Python jobs on ADLS? Like I know Fabric can't beat that. I mean, it won't be very customizable as the Python jobs. But where do you see like benefit cost wise also for enterprises? What should they choose? What is your
So,
take on
first
that?
of all, this all costs 40,000 rupees per month to run 70 terabytes of data on 8 years we have sent it, because all you need a machine which runs Python with more or less 32 gigs of memory. That's all. And with DuckDB and Polars in place, I think you can escape PySpark also, because enterprise, this you can't spend a lot of money. This is not something which is client being sponsored. Your company has to pay for it. Secondly, when we talk about Fabric gives you a native environment to run PySpark jobs, so you can replicate it. But it's a product that has not matured enough right now. It's still good for Power BI ecosystem for creating runtime lakehouse and all, but to maintain access control, you make sure the central team have access to the all data sets. Not everyone is like, this is not exposed to everyone, right? Only the process layer that to be we have created for specific departments is exposed with heavy RLS in place on the data warehouses and on the Power BI model also. And then there are custom Excel reports which are being scheduled. With Fabric, a lot of more has to go into it. It's a nice start. We are looking into it with Lakehouse and all. We are also going to move into Lakehouse as of now, because if you'll see, if you have a dedicated Python team or a data engineer team, they can leverage the ecosystem of Lake and the Lakehouse itself. But Fabric has a long way to go, I guess. It's not that mature enough to, you can't just completely rely, and then if Microsoft thinks, okay, we are not going to support this service, you are gone. This is a heavily core departments, Python ecosystem, data engineering. People knows pandas and polars and DuckDB, and they can do it.
Any other questions?
Hi. I was wondering how you are powering the automations directly from your data lake.
So we have these Python jobs running in Data Factory.
Okay.
We started with Airflow, but Data Factory gives you a lot of customizations available. So jobs runs on daily basis or whatever time you set. So some data are running on daily, some are running multiple times a day. I have systems which are running every 6 times. So in enterprise, we need everything, like everything should be refreshed in 4 times every 4 hours. That's also possible. Once data sits in your clean layer and process layer, Power BI reports connect to it, and you have created reports on top of it, and Power BI data also resets, also refresh. You can set up that in Power BI ecosystem. Plus, our data warehouse is being on set of top of this data lake, which has their own running ecosystems, and the ETL jobs is being done in Azure Data Factory and Pentaho.
So Data Factory is like replacing Airflow here.
Yeah, Data Factory is replacing Airflow here.
Thanks.
Hi. First of all, thank you for the session. Secondly, so as you told that in the last process we are trying to automate all the reports and even the mails that we send.
Processes, yes.
All the
Processes.
processes that you are automating. So often while working with the data, we came across cases that like outliers and all the cases which if we send in the report or might be in the initial stage of the data only, they are recorded incorrectly. So how to deal with this in because in the report we can't show that if these are outliers or if these if the data in the initial part was recorded was wrong, so we can't forward that. So is there any manual check or any automated check that you are that you have?
We do have applied some checks. For example, one is a lot of time revenue is negative. If you have seen it, it's a negative revenue is a thing. It's unbilled, unearned, and a lot of. If you'll sit with finance person, they'll give you like a hour-long session on top of it. Now it's up to you and your management, your finance team, whether you want to report it or not. So that's one of the check. We won't send negative revenue in emails. You can create those certain set of data models on top of it. Either in your pandas code itself, you can put an assertion check, or you can, if you want to leverage the great expectations of Identity, they can also put in those models, right? Secondly, for you, the number is 1.1001888. Management likes to see 1.1 million. So a lot of time aggregations has to be sent.
Hey, Akash,
When
we
you
have to
aggregate,
time check.
okay, we can take it offline, but thank you.